Hi, I'm Tom. Today we are going to create some lo-fi, nostalgic sounding piano loops. This sound is typically found in a lot of lo-fi, study, chill, hip-hop genres that are quite popular at the moment. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe for tutorials like this in the future. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to start off by playing the whole sound just as it is, with all of the effects on it so you can have a listen. You can hear all of those really wobbly, wavy, nostalgic sounds that sort of sound like it's been run through a tape machine, for example. So I'll show you a few of the techniques in order to achieve that sound. The first thing when trying to recreate this sound is you need to make sure that you're choosing the correct samples or the correct piano loop in the first place so that you kind of achieve the sort of desired aesthetic. So for example, in this track, I've chosen a really soft and warm sounding piano sample library. It's a felt piano that sounds really soft. That's kind of a good starting point. I'm using the Felt Instruments Leco sample library. What I'll do is I'll play it without any of the effects processing on it. I mean, that already sounds quite nice, and that goes back to my original point where you need to make sure that you're choosing the right sounds in the first place in order to get the best result after the effects have been applied. So the first thing I've got on there is a sample delay. It's not that necessary, but I'm using it to spread the signal as far left and right as I can, sort of for mixing purposes. You could argue that a more mono signal would actually be more appropriate for the lo-fi sound because it gives you the impression that you don't really have the two channels left and right, you've just got that one down the middle. So with the lo-fi nostalgic sound, you get a lot of sort of tape noise and tape hiss and vinyl hiss kind of sounds coming through. So what we want to do is we want to emulate this piano sound being degraded in some way. So what you can do is you can use the bit crusher to degrade the sound and then you mix a small amount of that in. So I'll just play it, a quick snippet with it, a quick snippet without it. You might not be able to hear too much of a difference. And with it turned on. So if you have some headphones or a speaker that's picking up some high-end frequency, you might hear a little bit of crack, a little bit of hiss in there. I have got this bit crusher on there, and I've got the mix on 8%. If I take it all the way up to 100, you can hear what it sounds like. There you go. Really degraded, really bit crushed. I'll just mix it in. Yeah, so the 8-9% mix kind of gives that kind of crisp to it. You could go a bit more crazy with it and you could increase the down sampling so that it really degrades it. But at that point we're kind of getting away from the lo-fi sound, it's kind of getting more digital sounding and it's sort of a genre in its own. Moving on, this is the main plugin that is doing the heavy lifting to kind of achieve this lo-fi nostalgic sound. So this is Logic's tape delay. So I actually was looking, when I wanted to try and achieve this sound myself, I was looking for a plugin that kind of would emulate a tape machine with these sort of flutter and wow sounds that kind of you'll hear in a minute. And after a bit of research, it actually shows that Logic has its own tape delay where it has this these effects in there. Yeah, okay. So I'll play it without and then with it and you can hear the difference. This is without. Turned it on now. Can you hear all those pitch shifts? So yeah, what it's doing is it's sort of taking that sound and it's sort of using this modulation section at the bottom. We have the LFO rate, the LFO intensity, a flutter rate and a flutter intensity. And these both individually are shifting the pitch of the sound a little bit depending on some rate that you've set and the intensity that you've set. So I think there's more of like a gradual pitch shift that's kind of moving up and down. That's through the LFO intensity. And then you've got this flutter rate, which is kind of doing the really quick flutters where it goes, and that's sort of brought in through this flutter. And the higher you turn it up, the more of that effect is put on. So let me just turn all of those up to quite a high percentage and we can hear how it sounds. So maybe that's a little bit too much, a little bit too glitchy. But if you bring it down, you get the sound occasionally, and it sounds more natural. So one thing to note is that on this, the wet signal is the one that has all of this modulation, this tape kind of emulation on it, and the dry signal is the one that's just coming in. So you want to bring the dry signal down to 0% and the wet signal up to 100%. You could mess around with the character, and that would sort of add a bit of tone and color to the sound. But for this use case, I didn't think it really needed it. Something else I've put on the track is I've just put on a bit of EQ to take out some of the low end. You know, that sort of also emulates the sort of the lo-fi recording equipment that might have been used to record some like a piano, and take out some of that low end because it wasn't able to record it. And finally, I've just got a compressor on there. That's just sort of just doing a bit of general compression. Not necessary for the sound, but it kind of improves it in my opinion. So that's me having applied it to this sort of piano sample library that I've been playing in through MIDI. However, you can also just do the same thing, but just put it on an audio track. So I have this piano loop, and you can do the same thing. So you just apply the bit crusher, the tape delay, and then some EQ, and then you can shape that sound into a lo-fi nostalgic sound. So I'll play it without any of the effects on it. Bringing in the bit crusher here. And now the tape delay. And now a bandpass EQ, there you go. So that EQ actually adds quite a lot to this one because it's taking out some of the low and the high end, and it's boosting the mid range. So let's listen without the EQ. And now with it. That's kind of the end of the tutorial aspect of this, but in my opinion, these sort of loops, they're sort of begging for a swinging drum beat and a bass line. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay one down. Let's go with this first MIDI one. I think I prefer that one. Let's get a bass line on there. So yeah, I've just messed around with the with some MIDI notes, sort of programming them in, and now I've got a little bit of a bass synth, a bit of bass line. I'll just play that for you now. Thanks for watching to the end. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like this video, and otherwise I'm out.